Okay, just imagine this for a second. You dedicate your entire life to one single moment. You train, you sacrifice everything, you push your body and your mind to the absolute edge. And then you do it. You actually achieve it. You're at the very pinnacle of your sport. But what happens after the cheering stops and the cameras go away? Well, that question leads us to this really strange and honestly painful paradox, the post-Olympic blues. So let's dive in and really try to understand what's going on here.
In this quote right here, it comes from Holly Bradshaw. She's not only an Olympian herself, but she's also one of the researchers behind the study we're looking at. And it's just such a powerful, personal plea that gets right to the heart of the issue, you know? This isn't just about winning or losing medals, it's about the very real human cost of reaching that peak.
So that's the big mystery we're unpacking. How on earth can the moment of your ultimate triumph, the thing you've worked for your whole life, lead to such deep distress, disappointment, and this feeling of being totally and completely abandoned? Let's figure it out.
All right, to get this, we first have to look at the massive gap between the dream and the reality. It's a story about this incredible, glorious peak that's followed by a sudden, unexpected, and really deep pit. Let's start with the dream side of things.
And wow, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the Olympic dream, what it's supposed to be. Pure elation, a lifelong goal finally fulfilled. But then, look at the other side, the nightmare reality that so many athletes face. A massive anticlimax, intense media scrutiny, and this crushing sense of being a failure, even when you're one of the best in the world.
And this quote, man, it just nails that feeling of anticlimax. Can you imagine? You train your whole life for the roar of the Olympic crowd, and you get there, and you're looking out at a nearly empty stadium with fake crowd noise being pumped in. As this one athlete at the Rio Games put it wasn't inspiring, it was just embarrassing. The grand spectacle they had dreamed of just wasn't there.
But the disappointment, it goes so much deeper than just the event itself. It's really rooted in how athletes feel they're treated by the very system they represent. And that brings us to our next point, this feeling of being seen as nothing more than a medal machine.
You know, one theme that comes up again and again in the research is this feeling of being turned into a product. Athletes talk about feeling less like people and more like commodities. Their entire worth gets judged and analyzed based only on their ability to produce a medal. And once that's over, they feel totally disposable.
And if you want a really gut-punch example of this, listen to this. An athlete is talking about their post-Olympic debrief. Their huge accomplishment, making the Olympic final, was just completely brushed over. The very next thing the staff wanted to talk about, so we want to lose some weight for next season, right? It just reduces this incredible human achievement to a quick tune-up on a machine.
This story from the flight home from Rio is it's staggering. The team literally seated athletes on the plane based on whether they won a medal or not. Gold medalists got the party up in first class, while everyone else was seated further back. It created this physical divide that just screamed, your personal worth is tied to your medal count. It's so dehumanized.
Okay, so we've seen the emotional reality. We've seen the what of the post-Olympic blues. But to really understand the why, we need to dig into the psychology behind it all. So let's grab our psychological toolkit and decode what's actually going on in their minds. Okay, time to open up that toolkit. At the absolute heart of this whole issue are two different but related types of well-being. And trust me, understanding the difference between these two is the key to unlocking this entire puzzle. So first up, we've got something called life satisfaction. This is the big picture, right? The 30,000-foot view of your life. It's how you judge how things are going overall. Are you hitting your major life goals? Is your career on track? How about your family, your finances? Think of it like the stable, long-term blueprint of your life. And then we have emotional well-being, which is a totally different beast. This is all about your day-to-day feelings. How are you feeling right now, in this moment? Happy? Stressed? Anxious? If life satisfaction is the long-term blueprint, then emotional well-being is the daily emotional weather. And we all know the weather can change in an instant, no matter how solid the blueprint is.
All right, so now that we've got our tools, life satisfaction and emotional well-being, let's apply them to what the athletes went through. Let's see if we can finally map out the anatomy of this post-Olympic crash.
Okay, and this right here, this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. It shows us what drives each type of well-being. See how those stable long-term things, money, a strong social network, future opportunities, are all strongly linked to life satisfaction? That's our blueprint. But our daily emotional well-being, our emotional weather, that's much more tied to our personality and our immediate situation.
So here it is, the anatomy of the crash.
in 4 pretty devastating steps. First, the dream. For years, athletes pour everything into one single goal, building toward a huge peak of life satisfaction. Step 2, the void. The second the games end, their daily routine, their purpose, it all vanishes overnight. Their emotional well-being just plummets. Then, step 3, the abandonment. Their coaches, their support staff, their funding, it all disappears. The very foundation of their life satisfaction gets yanked out from under them. And finally, the identity crisis. Their life goal is met, but their daily support is gone, which crushes both their long-term satisfaction and their daily happiness. They're just left lost.
And that all leads us to this, the absolute heart of the matter. You can achieve the biggest goal of your life, maxing out your life satisfaction. But that means almost nothing for your daily happiness, your emotional well-being, if the entire system that got you there is ripped away in an instant. The two are not the same thing. And that, right there, is the paradox.
I know, this all sounds incredibly bleak, right? But the good news is, the athletes in this study didn't just share their pain, they also gave a really clear roadmap for a better way forward. So let's take a look at what a new game plan for mental health support could actually look like.
What the athletes are asking for is crystal clear. They need support that's proactive, not just reactive after a crisis. They need it after the games, during that incredibly vulnerable crash period. They also need a heads up before the games, just to prepare them for what might be coming. But probably the most important change they're calling for is who provides that support.
In this quote, it's blunt, but it gets right to the core of the trust issue. There's this deep feeling that traditional sports psychologists, no matter how much they want to help, just can't truly understand the insane pressure of being an Olympian. Why? Because they've never stood on that line themselves.
And that's where we find the solution they're asking for. Overwhelmingly, the athletes want support from the people who actually get it, former Olympians. They're looking for that shared, lived experience, for real empathy and guidance from people who have walked in their exact same shoes.
And so that leaves us with one final and I think really critical question. The Olympics are a massive celebration of what humans are capable of. But behind every single one of those amazing performances is a person. So how do we build a system that celebrates that greatness without sacrificing the well-being of the person who achieves it? How do we start protecting the person, not just the performance?